The distance between Creede and Ouray, Colorado is a little less than 50 miles as the crow flies. The average traveler, however, drives over 150 miles to make that distance and spends nearly 4 hours doing so. Being a little different than your average traveler, however, we had chosen the 86-mile route, the route that takes you over Stony Pass. And so the four of us drove out that morning with our eyes fixed on Stony Pass. Reacher driving his Gladiator, accompanied by Tristan and Reacher's dog Kanan, and Bill driving our JK, along with myself and our dog Rue. The Stony Pass Trail is around 38 miles in length and goes all the way up to around 12,600 feet in elevation. Stony Pass is rated as a moderate trail, usually a level 3 or 4. It's known for some narrow, steep, and very rocky sections, which is exactly why we stopped to air down on the way. Today we had to make a quick repair to one of those valve stems because it kept leaking. But after we replaced the core, we headed on our way again. The first 10 miles of this trail are very easy. Onyx even calls them bumpy and boring. Although I might agree with them on the easy and a little bumpy part, I do not agree that this is boring. This is some beautiful, classic, iconic Colorado scenery, where you get glimpses of the Rio Grande Reservoir and the San Luis Valley. This area is known for its fishing, camping, hiking, and other recreational opportunities, and it's easily accessible by a 2-wheel drive vehicle. The Rio Grande Reservoir was built between 1910 and 1914. It's the third highest reservoir in Colorado, standing at about 9,400 feet. This area has several beautiful picnic areas, as well as 4 established campgrounds, 2 that are very primitive first-come, first-serve, and 2 that are larger and have some water and trash service during the season. The United States initially gave this land to the Utes around 1860, but when gold was discovered by the Animas River in 1871, illicit mining began. In 1871, E.M. Hamilton bought a share in a mine near here. As part of his purchase price, he was required to send some heavy mining equipment to the mine. That equipment, though, got all the way to Santa Fe, where he found that nobody would haul it up to the mine. In 1872, he finally located 10 heavy wagons that would take the mining equipment over the pass. The company actually turned all 10 of those wagons into sleds to try and haul them up over the pass, and they had to use ropes to lower those sleds down the far side of the pass because it was so steep. A few years later, in 1874, an agreement finally opened up the area to settlers and mining. By 1875, a road had opened for stagecoaches and wagons. Those stagecoaches and wagons, just like those initial ones, had to be tied to trees on the far side of the pass and lowered down the northern section. At least 8 different stops operated along this trail in its heyday: Antelope Springs, San Juan City, Lost Trail, Brewster Park, Timber Hill, Junction City, Grassy Hill, and Nygoldstown. Most of these stations operated in the 1870s until the early 1880s. They boasted boarding houses, saloons, shops, and even post offices. By 1880, a regular stagecoach operated 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, carrying passengers from Antelope Springs overnight to Silverton. The stage stop located in this beautiful valley, closest to where we are now, was known as Carr's Cabin or Jennison. In 1874, Charles and Irene Jennison purchased the area. By 1875, they had established a post office. That same year, however, Charles Jennison was shot and killed during a dispute in a saloon in Del Norte. His wife stayed on, but eventually sold out to Joel Brewster. Brewster only operated the station for a few years until 1978, when he bought Timber Hill, which was a different station just up the road that was better situated. By 1881, however, both of these stations were gone. In 1882, the railway finished a spur line into Silverton. At that point, traffic on this pass virtually stopped. Only those who were too poor to buy a rail ticket would now walk or ride horseback over the pass. This trail did see a brief resurgence in the 1890s with the opening of the Bear Creek Mine. Along with the mine, the stage and the post office returned. But in 1893, with the great financial panic, the mine closed and traffic on this route once again stopped. You might notice that I'm talking a lot more about history than I usually do. And I have to admit, I love history, and the stories about these areas are just fabulous. But in this particular case, I'm also talking about history because the road through this area, up to this point, was easy and scenic. But from here on out, the road definitely takes a turn. Welcome to the portion of the trail that both Onyx and Trails Off-Road warn you about. You know, that steep, narrow, can't see around the bend in front of you, rocky section? Here it goes. The first thing you really need to remember about this section is that the video never does justice to the declines or the inclines. The second thing you need to remember is that we were hauling a trailer. Now mind you, the Jeep on its own probably would have made short work of these inclines even with the rocks that are the size of your head. But in this case, that trailer was definitely slowing us down. Thankfully, with Bill's good driving, we barely even scratched going up this hill. The first car actually drove over this route in 1910. 3 men drove a Croxton Keaton French touring car with 4 cylinders and 30 horsepower over the pass. They had to clear boulders and build short sections of road. They even had horses pull the car up the final ascent to the pass. It took the men 5 days to do the 110 miles between Del Norte and Silverton. When the men finally reached Silverton, they were greeted by the explosion of dynamite, a banquet, and a great celebration in their honor. Today, it's unlikely that you're going to have to move any big boulders or build trail, but you do have to come across this section. The ruts in this particular area are determined by how much runoff this road gets every year. Once you pass those deep ruts, you can expect to have another mile or so of rocky road, some including large boulders and steep inclines. As much work as this stony section feels, you might think you were coming up to the pass, but you're not. You are, however, coming up to a beautiful view. After leaving behind the viewpoint near Timber Hill, you still have almost 7 miles before you reach the top of Stony Pass. While you're traveling through this area, you might want to ponder this. Several legends have it that there are still treasures left behind up in these mountain meadows, passes, and swamps. One of those legends tells the story of 2 men who stole bars of bullion and went up over Stony Pass. But they got caught in a great snowstorm and they had to abandon it along the route. That bullion has still not been found. Another legend tells about how some robbers tried to steal silver ore off of free wagons from the Beartown mines near this area. The wagon drivers and guards dumped 2 of those wagons full of ore into a swamp before the arrival of the robbers. But the robbers then killed them all and took the last wagon for themselves. That ore still has not been found.
It was really darn steep.
I won't be missing the trailer brakes here in a minute.
I hope not to. Just being short trailer brakes on something like this might be challenging.
After passing the turnoff to Beartown and Kite Lake, you finally reach Pole Creek. It's after this crossing that you finally start making the ascent to the top of Stony Pass. Looking over to the far side of the pass today makes me wonder what those guys, the 3 in 1910 who drove over this pass for the first time in a car, thought when they looked down the far side. They just made it up to the top of the pass, having those horses pull the car to the top. And now they must have looked down and thought, man, I hope our brakes are going to hold. As history tells, the brakes did hold for them coming down this pass, though they did have to stop several times to keep them from overheating. After that first successful drive over the pass in 1910, auto touring this area became much more popular. Most cars, however, chose to drive over the Molas Pass between Durango and Silverton instead of over Stony Pass, because Stony Pass was just that much more challenging. The Stony Pass route did get some additional improvements over the years, however. In 1915, the road to the Rio Grande Reservoir was improved, and then in 1937, the road for the Beartown mines near Kite Lake was improved to allow passage of ore trucks. By World War II in the 1940s, however, even the ore trucks from Beartown mines stopped using the road. This track then lay virtually dormant until the 1950s, when the popularity of recreation in the area caused the Forest Service to take an interest and rebuild the road. Driving down that last mile and a half of trail, the steep section, you just imagine back to the 1870s and picture the first people coming over this and lowering their wagons down the side of this mountain by ropes tied to trees. The Stony Pass Trail ends only a little over 5 miles from Silverton. From there, it's a very easy drive over the $1 Million Highway to Ouray, Colorado, where we found camp and this dispersed site for the evening. Thanks for joining us on our drive over Stony Pass. Where are we headed next? There's so many classic trails here, sometimes it's hard to choose. But maybe we'll head somewhere like this. Hope to see you then. In the meantime, go out and find your own adventure.